In the middle of the night, Aurora is shaking with fear. When she hears something moving under the bed, she screams. Her parents immediately come to check on her and Aurora tells them that there's a monster under her bed. She also asks them not to touch the floor because the beast can't get them if they don't. The mother stays by the door and crouches to take a look, saying there's nothing down there. The parents tell her to sleep and wish her good night before leaving. Aurora is still too scared, so she climbs through the window to sleep on the balcony. Sometimes she peeks inside and still sees the dust bunny under the bed. When a shooting star appears in the sky, she makes a wish. Suddenly a firefly appears in front of her, so Aurora follows its flight until she sees her neighbor from apartment 5B leaving the area. The next day, Aurora tries to spy on the neighbor's mail by peeking into his mailbox. She quickly hides when 5B comes back and takes his stuff. Aurora watches him from the stairs and comes out to take the elevator when she sees 5B do the same. At first she hesitates to come in, but he holds the door open for her so she follows. Once they reach their floor, Aurora can't help but stare at his door. That night, Aurora stands on the balcony and watches 5B leave again. With a blanket in hand, she goes down the fire escape and starts following him. 5B hears a noise and turns around, so Aurora quickly hides under the trash containers. When 5B takes a look, he only sees the blanket so he leaves. Aurora keeps following him until they make it to Chinatown, where she takes a mask from the trash to hide her face. Then she climbs to a random building's roof and continues to follow 5B from above. Eventually she finds him in an alley being followed by a group of men with a big dragon puppet. Suddenly some firecrackers fall around the dragon and 5B jumps out of the shadows, doing some pirouettes around a pole before attacking the men. First he fights the guys surrounding the puppet, quickly killing them one by one with smooth moves and precise strikes. He has to roll out of the way when the dragon almost gets him, and a firecracker explosion brings down a few more men. Then 5B takes out a special weapon to stop an attack and continues the fight, killing more enemies with the same amazing skills. He even slides under the dragon to kill the guys holding it. Because of all the lights and the smoke, Aurora thinks she's seeing him kill an actual dragon. Afterward Aurora follows him home. 5B is wounded and sometimes blood drips on the floor, so he takes his shoe off and cleans it with his sock every time. The last one he cleans with his sleeve before entering his apartment. He pretends to close the door, but actually he's spying on Aurora, who comes out of hiding and knocks on her door so her parents will let her in. While they give her a bath they scold her, but Aurora's attention is on the dust bunny disappearing under the floor. The couple puts Aurora to bed and her father says he's taking all her worries away in his pocket. Her parents say good night but Aurora replies goodbye. Soon the noises begin and Aurora hides under her blankets as the monster emerges from the floor and leaves the room to kill her parents. She can hear all their screaming and the roaring as she cries. The next morning Aurora is too afraid of touching the floor, so she moves around on a hippo statue with wheels. She checks the master bedroom and finds it completely wrecked with no sign of her parents. After eating cereal alone, Aurora goes to the lobby and waits all day for 5B, but he doesn't show up. When she returns to the apartment, Aurora takes some grapes from the kitchen before going to her room, where she starts walking on the furniture to avoid the floor. She freezes when she accidentally drops a grape, but nothing happens so she keeps moving until she reaches her bed. Then she takes off her boots, and one of them falls off by accident. Suddenly the floor shakes and Aurora hides under the blankets. A piece of wood is cut off very slowly and a claw comes out of the hole to take the grape. The monster eats it inside the hole but hates the taste, so it spits it out. The grape hits a lamp, breaking the bulb. Aurora throws her blanket to cover the hole, but the monster just pulls it down. When Aurora tries to escape, the monster starts moving the bed to stop her. Then it emerges from the floor, revealing its huge and hairy body. The bed ends up stuck on its back, so Aurora holds on tightly to avoid falling. The monster keeps turning around looking for her and when it can't find her it decides to go back, the floor smoothly closing behind it. The next morning, Aurora finds her boots on the bed and is confused. But she also sees the broken light bulb, confirming the monster was real. Then she goes to church, where people are putting their money in the collection plates. The children are given the job of taking the plate back to the priest, but Aurora only pretends to help and runs out of the building with the money. Moments later 5B grabs his mail and discovers a weird envelope with cute stickers. When he reaches his floor, he notices that Aurora is looking at the corridor through the window. In his apartment, 5B opens the envelope and finds a letter from Aurora, saying she wants to hire him to kill the monster under her bed. He starts counting the money that came with the letter but he's interrupted by a knock. It's Aurora, who wants to know if the money is enough. After he lets her in, Aurora introduces herself but he refuses to tell her his name. The envelope has $327.42 and Aurora admits she stole it from the church. When 5B asks why she thinks he can kill monsters, she tells him that she saw him kill a dragon in Chinatown. 5B explains that she imagined things and monsters aren't real, but she insists they are. He wonders what her parents think of this, so Aurora says that the monster ate them. Worried and curious, 5B goes to Aurora's apartment and inspects the parents' room. He finds no blood, but there's a bullet casing on the floor plus holes and slashes on the walls. 5B wonders why the neighbors didn't hear anything and Aurora explains that the monster eats screams as well. Afterward they return to his place and he wonders why she hasn't called the police, so Aurora points out they won't listen to the monster story. Trying to get more information by playing her game, 5B asks why a monster would kill her family, but she just says that they touched the floor. 5B explains that monsters don't kill people just for touching floors. The monsters that go after him want to kill him because he kills other monsters. Frustrated by the conversation, 5B sends Aurora home. That evening, 5B goes to a bar hidden in the train tunnels to meet with his handler Lavender. He shows her the IDs of Aurora's parents and says they were taken by professionals. He thinks some mercenaries were after him and got the wrong apartment, so they had to kill the parents because they saw their faces. Laverne promises to investigate and points out that Aurora knows too much, but 5B refuses to kill a child. This makes Laverne realize he feels guilty about the incident and thinks it's ridiculous. Later at home, 5B is staying up late and just like he expects, he hears the elevator moving. He immediately goes to Aurora's apartment and tells her that a monster is coming, so she has to hide in the closet. Then 5B waits near the main door by climbing on the ceiling. He has a knife in his mouth which he accidentally drops. At that moment an assassin enters the apartment. When he's close enough, 5B jumps on him to start a fight. The assassin takes the knife first and 5B dodges his attack by going through the glass in the ceiling. As soon as 5B lands again, the assassin grabs him and begins smashing his body on the walls. 5B manages to grab a big light bulb and smashes it on the guy's head. Then he tries to choke him and they end up with each other's feet on their faces. The assassin moves fast to grab 5B in a chokehold, so 5B begins pressing his fingers into the man's neck until he chokes him to death. At the same time, another assassin breaks into Aurora's bedroom through the balcony. She shoots the lump on the bed, but when she pulls the blankets she discovers that she was tricked by pillows. The woman opens the closet and moves the head of a costume to find a terrified Aurora. When she's about to shoot the girl, the monster emerges from the floor and attacks her, breaking the closet doors before devouring her. Afterward 5B rushes to Aurora's room and realizes another assassin came. He thinks the killer escaped, but Aurora insists she was eaten. 5B takes Aurora to the kitchen and tells her that more assassins will come to finish the job. He checks her room and the only hole he finds in the floor is from the assassin's shot. Then 5B grabs Aurora's panda suitcases and brings them to the bathroom with the assassin's body and all his tools. The body is wrapped in plastic and hung over the tub, but 5B accidentally drops it when Aurora appears behind him. She wonders what he's doing, so he explains he's draining the body's fluids to avoid a mess when he chops it up. He plans to put the pieces in the suitcases to get rid of it, and he closes the door so Aurora can't watch the gruesome process. Aurora ends up falling asleep in front of the door, and 5B wakes her up when he's done chopping. Since the body doesn't look human anymore, he lets her help him wrap all the pieces. While Aurora works, she asks lots of questions. 5B finally admits that he's a hitman, and her parents were killed by an assassin who was looking for him. Now more assassins are being sent to kill both of them, since Aurora knows too much. She tells him not to feel guilty because a monster always kills her parents. Their conversation is interrupted by someone knocking on the door. 5B opens just enough to see Brenda, who introduces herself as a social worker. It turns out this is Aurora's third foster home and Brenda is supposed to do a routine checkup. 5B pretends to be Aurora's father but he makes many mistakes during the conversation, making Brenda suspicious. A nervous 5B claims he's feeling sick and convinces her to reschedule. As soon as he closes the door, he concludes that Brenda isn't a real social worker. At the same time, Brenda tells someone in her earpiece that 5B isn't the real father. Afterward 5B asks Aurora about her previous foster families, and she says that the monster ate them all. Her first family treated her badly, so she wished on a shooting star for a monster to get rid of them. Unfortunately she couldn't get rid of it, so she made another wish for 5B to kill it. Aurora has nobody in this world and 5B refuses to answer when she asks if he does, so she tells him that she'll miss him if he were gone. Sometime later 5B meets Laverne at a cafe and brings the suitcases, pretending that the assassin's body is only in the big one and the pieces in the small one are Aurora. Laverne admits she was the one who sent the assassins but they weren't after 5B, she only wanted them to kill Aurora because she knows too much. Then she shares the results of the investigation. Nobody knows anything about Aurora's parents. Her birth family abandoned her, so Laverne thinks all the monster stories are Aurora's way to deal with her trauma. Laverne also investigated who was trying to kill 5B, and it turns out the entire criminal world is after him. The conversation is interrupted by Aurora joining them at the table, completely ruining 5B's plan to pass her off as dead to get the assassins off her back. Laverne thinks 5B is helping Aurora to deal with his own childhood trauma and advises him to leave the city. Afterward 5B takes Aurora to a restaurant and they notice a creepy guy watching them from the bar. Aurora asks 5B to be her dad, so he points out that all her dads die. 5B shares that when he was a kid, he thought his mother was the most beautiful woman in the world, but then he grew up and realized that his brain made him believe in delusions. He tries to convince Aurora that she's imagining the monster, but this only angers her and triggers an argument. They're interrupted by the creepy guy, who asks if the girl is 5B's daughter. Aurora says yes and 5B says no. At that moment the waiter brings the food, and 5B eats a bunny-shaped dumpling that Aurora imagines is moving. The creepy man admits he's a hitman but he's only here for 5B and doesn't want the girl involved. 5B convinces him to wait outside and promises to meet him after dinner. After the guy is gone, 5B asks the waiter to put everything into to-go boxes and leaves with Aurora without meeting the guy. As they walk through Chinatown, Aurora holds 5B's hand. She notices that the creepy man is following them and 5B swears he has a plan. Soon more hitmen join the first one as they follow the duo to the apartment building. Moments later Brenda arrives because 5B called her. When Aurora opens the door for her, she also sees mysterious men on the stairs. 5B sends her to her room, where she hides in a special hiding space he's carved in the mattress. Then 5B tells Brenda that he's just a concerned neighbor who is worried about his and Aurora's lives. He thinks all the foster families were murdered and he'll be next, so he wants Brenda to get help. To convince her of his story, 5B turns off all the lights and points at the hitmen waiting outside. Brenda uses her earpiece to contact her driver, who also sees the men and agrees to get backup. At that moment someone rings the bell, so 5B rushes to open the door, ignoring Aurora when she tells him to get off the floor. After checking the window, 5B opens the door to find Laverne, whom he drags to the hallway to discuss the situation. She tells him that the people outside are preparing an ambush, but 5B says he's the one doing the ambushing. He knows Brenda is an FBI agent undercover, so he told her that Aurora's families died to convince her to call backup. He actually thinks that the families just abandoned the girl. Laverne scolds him, saying that Aurora can't live because she's seen their faces before asking 5B to save himself. 5B kisses her hand and makes her leave. When 5B returns to the apartment, Brenda admits she's an FBI agent and 5B pretends to be very surprised. Brenda explains she's investigating Aurora's families and 5B is actually shocked to hear that her previous foster parents are all missing for real. The only clue is an open bottle of thumb-sucking deterrent they found in the first house. Someone was applying it to her finger and disappeared with the applicator brush, which was later found under the floorboards. Nobody understands how it got there, so 5B jokes that the monster spat it out since it's a deterrent. Suddenly they hear a noise and rush to check on Aurora, who says she accidentally touched the floor. 5B moves to look out the window and Aurora keeps throwing things at him, begging him to get off the floor. A floorboard breaks, and Aurora lets out a piercing scream. 5B tells her to hide and leaves the room, not noticing the floor breaking behind him. At that moment the assassins shoot the door, which pushes 5B and Brenda back right before the monster jumps out and quickly hides again. The hitmen open fire through the hole in the door, so 5B takes Brenda's gun to shoot back. He manages to kill a few enemies as he drags an unconscious Brenda to the bathroom. Then 2 FBI agents appear in the corridor and open fire too, killing a few more hitmen. The survivors kick the door open and hide inside the apartment. In the bathroom, 5B notices he's out of ammo and starts searching Brenda's clothes, but she wakes up and takes back her gun. 5B puts his ear to the floor to listen to the hitmen's movements and is shocked to hear Aurora instead. Finally believing Aurora's story, he climbs onto the sink and tells Brenda to get off the floor too. When an assassin is about to open the bathroom door, the monster reappears in Aurora's room. The creepy guy tries to shoot it, but the monster isn't affected and comes out to devour a whole man. The other hitmen panic and open fire as they make their way to the door, however the bullets keep doing nothing and the monster keeps advancing, eating them one by one. In the bathroom, 5B searches for anything he can use in a fight and finds a bottle of thumb-sucking deterrent. A hitman is thrown through the door and lands in the tub, so 5B stabs his eye with an electric toothbrush. When the man tries to shoot him, Brenda shoots him first and closes the door. Eventually all the screaming stops. Only 4 hitmen are left and they're surviving by hanging on the wall. One of them accidentally drops his weapon, causing the monster to come out and eat him, dragging his body back into its hole. Brenda and 5B then throw the hitman's body in the corridor as a test, and the others immediately shoot him. Soon the monster reappears and eats this body too, so 5B closes the bathroom door again. Suddenly the FBI agents burst into the apartment and try to arrest the hitmen, who don't want to come down but are forced to. One of the agents burst into the bathroom and Brenda tells him not arrest 5B, calling him a concerned neighbor. Then Brenda rushes to the corridor and holds onto the wall while telling her coworkers to get off the floor. A claw emerges from the floor to close the front door before the monster comes out to eat everyone in the corridor. Aurora covers her ears while she hears all the screaming and gunshots outside her room. Once nobody is left, the monster returns to its hole. Afterward 5B gets on the hippo to go to Aurora's room, promising to help her escape. However the monster comes out again and captures him in its mouth. 5B fights as much as possible to keep the mouth open, but he isn't strong enough and the mouth closes around him. The monster then returns to its hole, and a devastated Aurora says, "I told you so," before hiding again. The next morning Aurora wakes up because she hears a weird noise. Suddenly a hole opens and the monster spits out 5B, who survived thanks to the thumb-sucking deterrent. The duo reunites with a hug, but the sweet moment is interrupted by Laverne, who is wearing gun shoes. She's come to kill Aurora, and 5B tries to warn her about the monster. Since Laverne refuses to move, 5B begs by calling her mom, revealing that she's his mother and all his trauma comes from growing up in her dirty business. Laverne tells him not to call her that and mocks the idea of a monster right before the beast comes out. She desperately opens fire with her shoes, so the monster hides under the floor and emerges again behind her to eat her. 5B whispers mom for the last time while watching her die. Then he takes Aurora to the balcony, but before he can move too, the monster flips the bed and gets ready to eat him. 5B rolls out of the way and the monster swallows the whole bed. Soon it comes back for more, so Aurora gets between it and 5B, desperate to save the only friend she's ever had. The beast freezes and 5B points out that it doesn't want to eat her because it's hers, so she has to learn to live with it. This makes her brave enough to finally tell the monster stop. The duo then climbs down the fire escape and leaves the city to start a new life. Later, while they drive through the countryside, the monster runs after their car. Back in the apartment, Brenda turns out to be alive because she hid in a cupboard. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.